I was sitting at the defense table in my own courtroom today, thumb tracing the edge of my crimson wolf scarf, when I heard my parents laughing like they'd already cashed my life in, again. They didn't recognize me. Then the bailiff said, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Riley Dawson." My mother stood, expecting a stranger. And I stood with her. I walked past the bar, up the steps, and took the bench. Their lawyer's smirk died. My father hissed, "That's impossible." I whispered back, "You signed my death for money." Am I in the wrong? If the people who left you like luggage crawled back for cash, would you choose revenge or mercy? Comment guilty or innocent and hit subscribe. I remember the sound first. O'Hare, 1994. Terminal 3 was a living machine. Announcements, rolling bags, the oversized baggage belt clanking like it was chewing metal. I was 5, drowning in a too-long crimson scarf that scratched my neck. My parents, Mark and Elaine Dawson, walked ahead of me like I was something they regretted packing. No hand-holding. No, "Are you okay?" Elaine glanced back once. "Riley, hurry up, you're slowing us down." They steered me past happy reunions and pretzel stands, down into the cold industrial cave of oversized baggage, steel benches bolted to tile, air that smelled like jet fuel and stale coffee. Mark pointed at a bench. "Sit. Watch the bags." I blinked. "Why?" Elaine didn't even look at me. Her eyes were on the exit signs. "We have to grab tickets. Don't move." Then she added, sweetly mean, "Count 500 bags. When you're done, we'll be back." 500 felt huge. Still, I nodded. Because I'd learned early that saying no didn't change their minds, it only made them angry. So I counted. 1, 2, 3. Skis, a guitar case, a taped-up box. People came and went. The crowd thinned, the belt slowed, and by the time I whispered 500, the carousel stopped like it had gotten tired of pretending. That's when the silence hit, heavy and suffocating. The kind that makes a kid stare at automatic doors and realize those doors aren't bringing anyone back. My stomach turned with a thought my body understood before my brain did. They're not lost. They're relieved. A security guard rolled by, slowed down, and frowned. "Hey, sweetheart. Where are your parents?" Before I could answer, a man stepped out from the shadow of a pillar. Gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses. He knelt to my level without touching me. "I saw them leave," he said softly. "I'm sorry." Nobody had ever apologized to me for pain I didn't earn. The guard reached for his radio. "I'm calling social services." The man's voice stayed calm. "I'll stay with her until the police arrive. She shouldn't be alone." His name was Ethan Wallace. He waded through questions and paperwork. He didn't feed me fake hope. He didn't say, "Maybe they'll come back." He told me the truth, and somehow that felt safer than pretending. After that came foster care and a long stretch of silence. I didn't have words for what happened, so I swallowed them. Silence became my armor. And then Ethan did the part that still makes my chest ache. He didn't disappear. He kept showing up. He filed forms. He came to hearings. He became my home without demanding I call him anything. So I grew up knowing 2 truths at once. The people who made me treated me like luggage, and the man who owed me nothing treated me like a life worth saving. Years later, I learned how to speak again. I learned how to look someone in the eyes and say, no. I studied law because rules were the only adults that ever felt consistent. In court, when the room goes quiet, people think silence is empty. It isn't. Silence is pressure. Silence is power. I built my whole life on taking that crushing Terminal 3 silence and turning it into something I could control. And I kept the scarf. Not because it kept me warm, because it reminded me I survived being treated like an object. I didn't know where Mark and Elaine went after they walked out. I just knew they never came back for me, until money gave them a reason. Ethan Wallace died on a Tuesday morning. Quiet, no headlines. Just a call from a nurse and the kind of silence that makes your hands feel too heavy to move. At his memorial, the people who showed up weren't CEOs. They were shelter staff and former foster kids. Proof he'd been helping people in secret for years. I wore my crimson scarf and tried not to fall apart. Then came the will. I expected a modest house and a small account. Instead, the attorney slid a portfolio across the table like it weighed 100 pounds. Ethan wasn't just an accountant. He'd quietly invested early in a few tech companies and never touched the lifestyle. He lived simple so he could give big. The final number didn't sound real, $5.5 million. 2 days later, the local news ran with it. My face on TV. Judge inherits secret fortune. I felt exposed, like someone had ripped my life open for clicks. 48 hours after that, someone knocked on my door. A process server. "Riley Dawson?" he asked. I nodded, and he handed me an envelope that felt like a brick. Fraudulent custody, estate theft, emotional damages. The plaintiffs, Mark and Elaine Dawson, my parents. They didn't call to ask if I was alive. They didn't ask to meet. They sued. The complaint was pure fiction. Ethan abducted me from O'Hare. They searched tirelessly for decades. They were devoted parents, robbed of their child by a predator. And their demand, the full $5.5 million plus Ethan's house. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went into chambers mode, the part of me that turns feelings into files. Because I knew the real motive the second I saw the number. When I was 5, I was a liability. Now I was a payout. So I hired a forensic accountant, Nina Patel, the kind of woman who can smell fraud through a bank statement. I slid the lawsuit across my dining table and said, "Go back to 1994, find everything." For 3 days, my house became a war room. Tax returns, property records, dusty court archives. Nina's laptop glowing at 2 a.m. while I drank coffee that tasted like resentment. On the third night, Nina went still. "Riley," she said, "look at 1995. Cook County Civil Docket. Plaintiffs, Mark Dawson and Elaine Dawson. Defendant, Lakefront Continental Airlines." My stomach dropped. "They sued the airline?" "Right after you disappeared," Nina said. "We pulled the case file. Their story back then was different, but the shape of it was the same. They claimed they'd entrusted me to airline staff for an unaccompanied minor flight, and the airline's negligence let me vanish. Clean lie, convenient lie. Then we found the settlement agreement. Lakefront Continental didn't want the PR nightmare of a missing child, so they paid to make it go away. The settlement amount, $450,000 in 1995. But the money wasn't the smoking gun. The affidavit was. To get paid, Mark and Elaine signed a sworn statement acknowledging that their child, me, was presumed deceased, and they accepted the settlement as full and final compensation while releasing the airline from future liability. They signed my death for a check. I stared at their signatures until the letters blurred. Mark's looked jagged like rage. Elaine's looked neat like she took her time. And the thought that landed in my chest was colder than anger. They didn't lose a daughter. They liquidated one. Nina watched me carefully. "Are you okay?" I heard myself laugh once, sharp and wrong. "No, I'm clear." Because here's the trap they didn't see. If they admit I was alive back then, they're fraudsters. If they insist I was dead, they have no standing to sue me now. Either way, their lawsuit becomes a confession. That night, I called my attorney, Grant Miller. "No settlement," I said. "We go to trial." This wasn't about the inheritance anymore. It was about making the truth impossible to deny and making sure their greed finally had a price. Trial felt like watching strangers perform my life with the wrong script. Mark and Elaine arrived in muted colors, faces set to grief. Elaine cried on cue. Mark spoke in that wounded voice that makes jurors lean forward. They swore they'd searched for decades. They called Ethan Wallace a predator. They painted themselves as shattered parents. I sat at the defense table and let them stack lie on top of lie. Because the higher they built it, the harder it would fall. When it was our turn, my attorney Grant Miller called one witness. The defense calls Haley Brooks. Elaine's head snapped toward the doors. Mark went rigid. Haley, my little sister, walked in with tired eyes and a posture that looked like it had been apologizing for 28 years. She didn't look at them. She looked at me. Grant asked, "Haley, what was it like growing up in your parents' home after Riley disappeared?" Haley swallowed. It was like living in a museum, she said. Everything was about a tragedy, but it wasn't about missing my sister. It was about using her. Elaine lurched up. Haley, stop. Sit down, the bailiff barked. Haley's hand shook, but her voice stayed clear. They told the church they spent every dime searching. They told neighbors they hired investigators. But I watched them weaponize it. If rent was due, they'd cry. If Dad lost money gambling, they'd cry. And people paid. Then she pulled out a shoebox and opened it. Casino receipts. Empress Riverboat Casino, she said, holding one up. Dated November 7th, 8th, and 9th, 1994, the week Riley vanished. While police were searching, my parents were gambling. The courtroom went silent. Haley's voice cracked. I used to feel guilty that I got to stay. But now I realize Riley was the one who got away. I was the one left behind. Grant stepped forward with the certified 1995 settlement. Your Honor, the plaintiffs accepted $450,000 from Lakefront Continental Airlines for the wrongful death of their daughter. In the attached affidavit, they swore she was presumed deceased. I watched the judge read. Her expression shifted from neutral to disgust. She looked up at them. Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, you declared your daughter dead in exchange for money. So, one of two things is true. Either you committed fraud in 1995 or you're committing perjury today. Which is it? I stood before anyone asked me to. I walked into the aisle and faced them. 30 years of fear tried to climb my throat and I pushed it down. You sold me, I said. Elaine reached for her performance. Riley, please. We were young. We were scared. We loved you. I kept my voice flat. You signed a paper saying I didn't exist so you could cash a check. Mark snapped, eyes wild. We did what we had to do. And there it was. No love, just a transaction. The judge's gavel cracked. Case dismissed with prejudice. Bailiff, escort the plaintiffs into custody. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation into perjury and fraud. They screamed. They begged. I didn't watch. I turned my back the way they turned theirs. I didn't treat the $5.5 million like a trophy. Ethan didn't save me so I could worship money. I used it to build the Lost and Found Foundation, legal defense and advocacy for foster kids aging out of the system, the ones who get dropped the minute they're inconvenient. 6 months after trial, Haley and I sat in a noisy Chicago coffee shop, laughing like two people learning how to be sisters from scratch. I wore my scarf, not as armor, but because it looked good. My revenge wasn't watching my parents fall. My revenge was building a life they could never cash in on, and using my voice to make sure no kid ever has to count to 500 alone. 6 months after the verdict, I caught myself doing something I hadn't done in years, laughing without checking the room first. Haley was across the table, stirring her coffee like it was a new kind of peace, and I realized healing isn't loud, it's steady. My parents thought they could rewrite my life into a payday. They thought the kid they abandoned would stay silent forever. But the silence they forced on me became the tool I use to protect other kids now. Here's what still keeps me up sometimes. Part of me wanted to burn their world down. Part of me wanted to hand them the mercy they never gave me just to prove I was different. So, am I in the wrong? For choosing revenge in court instead of reconciliation at the kitchen table? What I know is this: you don't owe access to people who treated you like property. You can forgive, but you don't have to reopen the door. If this story hit a nerve, drop guilty or innocent in the comments and tell me what you would have done. And if you want more real-life justice stories like this, like, share, and subscribe, because somebody out there needs to hear they're not baggage.